All right, so let's start with solving the rock, paper, scissors, Spock lizard game. Let's start with print instructions. And all of this asking you about is to print the modified instructions for the game, okay? So let's take a look at instructions. And this is printing the instructions for the old game. Paper beats rock, rock beats scissors, and scissors beat paper, okay? Let's modify those instructions. Anyone? All right, take out the and, thank you. All right, so that's the easy part, it's just changing those print line statements. Rock, paper, scissors, Spock, and lizard game, okay? And basically for this part, I'm not going to spend much time. I think if I can copy those. So basically I just need to type Spock smashes scissors and vaporizes rock, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just going to add the new rules to that, whatever. Following rules in addition, okay. Well, let's put them in Word. Okay. So I'm just going to add the new rules, which is which does not show up in here anyway. Okay, I'm going to type it. So paper beats rock, rocks beat scissors, and scissors beat paper. I'm going to print line also. Lizard Spock beats scissors and rock. But he is, or let's keep the same format. I'm going to say also lizard beats Spock and paper beats Spock, and then finally the lizard, well, the lizard points in Spock, so we already have done this, but also the lizard eats paper. Also this paper. And scissors beats scissors and rock beats lizard. So there is nothing really in here, just writing those rules to finish the print instruction method, okay? Now let's move on to the second one, which is get user choice. Basically, this will ask the user now to enter one of the 5 weapons instead of 3. Okay, so get user choice right now asking for an input. What should we change at this point? All right, Spock. Okay, scissors, Spock, or lizard. So there is nothing at this point. You're just giving those choices to the user and then just reading the input, okay? Now, if this method has been checking for validating the input, then we, it would have been more involved to change. At this point, there is nothing. We're just changing the prompt and asking the user to enter one of those values. Okay. Let's do get program choice. Now we want the program to randomly generate one of the 5 weapons. Okay. So far we have rock, paper, scissors. How do we extend this to include Spock and lizard? A lot of if statements? How many? Oh, the beat. Okay. All right. So let's think about, let's add this one. This one needs only 2 more if statements. Okay. We need to add just 2 more weapons. Okay. So how do we do that? So else if, I'm going to make this else if because I need my multi-way if statement to be 5. So else if, now before I was generating a number between 0 and 3, 0, 1, 2. Now I need to increase this one to be what, 5 or 6? Well, I'm counting from 0, right? So I'm counting 0 to be the first weapon. So it has to be 5. If I'm starting my if with 1, it would have been 6. Okay, so it's up to the convention we decide. So I'm going to do 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weapons. R equals to 0, 1, and then 2. And then I'm going to do else if R is equal to 3. It's going to be Spock, and then otherwise it will be lizard. Okay. That's a simple extension, and then just adding one more else if and else, and we add 2 more weapons to the game. Okay. Any question about this part? Yes. No, it's a random result, so it does not make any difference. Okay, it would be one of them. Just using the same ordering. The code, I guess, will be more readable if it's the same convention. All right, so let's do it in a slightly more concise way. I mean, this is perfectly fine if you just add 2 if statements. But since we were just talking about arrays and indexing, let's do it using an array. So right now we have 5 weapons, and all of them are string. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a string array, put those weapons in this array. Okay, paper, and then scissors, Spock, and then lizard here. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw one of these, all right? So R, instead of doing the if statement, R would be the index that I'll be using to get one of those elements. So what I will do, I will get return weapon R, okay? And since R, it's a random number between 0 and 5, it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I am missing something. Rock, paper, scissors, Spock, and lizard. Is it 5? Okay, we have 5, right. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weapons. One of those weapons will be returned. Okay?
So is triple face, that's just like a random number?
So triple face, now it's pentaface. It's basically a random number generator, and for some reason we're talking about Batman in the class, and we use double face as an example. This is a triple face. It's, you know, you're getting a number by one of the 3, right? So maybe this is not the best. This is not the best name, so I'm going to take it out. Okay. All right. Yeah. That's just a variable name. All right. So notice that I'm not asking you to do anything with the method tie, simply because tie would work as usual. If choice 1 equals choice 2, you will get true, otherwise you will get false. So there is nothing to be done here. The complication in here is basically in the method beat, because right now we added 2 more weapons, but noticed how many additional winning rules were associated with those. So we had now lizard and spark. Now we get, just look at those arrows. Rock to lizard, lizard to spark, lizard to paper, and then 6. We added 6 more rules, right? Spark to scissors, 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. Okay. So we have 8 more rules to implement in here, in this beat method. Okay. So we can be a bit mechanical and then just write down those 8 if statements, okay, to complete the beat method. Or we can try to focus on each one of those weapons individually and try to return, for instance, look at lizard and see whether if it's it beats spark and paper and spark. So we can do an if statement for each weapon, and inside this if statement we can return whether it's a beat or not. Okay, so it's up to you to decide the way you want to do it. If you want to be mechanical, you can just add those 8 if statements, and you will end up with the correct decision rules, right? So let's do this. I'm going to do the following. I'm going to do the first one. Let me put those side by side. All right. So the additional rules are the following. Spark smashes scissors. So spark and scissors then will be true. Okay, and it happens to be scissors. So this is the first one. Let's do the second one. I'm going to copy and paste this if-else statement, and the second one is spark vaporizes rock. So spark will beat rock in this case. Okay. The third one is actually he's poisoned by lizard and disproven by paper. So both lizard and paper will beat spark. Okay. So lizard and paper will beat spark, right? So lizard and then paper will beat spark. And finally, we have lizard poisons spark and eats paper. So lizard beats spark, and I think we already done this, right? And eats paper. So now we know that the lizard beats paper. Okay. Now lizard is crushed by rock and decapitated by scissors. So scissors beat lizard, and rock beats also lizard. So we need 2 if-else statement, additional else-if statement to note down that the lizard will be decapitated by the scissors and also crushed by the rock. Okay. Rock. Now, just a way to check whether we've done all of the rules. The number of the rules should match the number of the arrows in this figure. So in this figure, we have how many arrows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we should have 10 conditions here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right? If none of them is true, then it's false, right? So that's it. Now we can test the game. Should work fine. And let's see the new game. I think the new game will be more interesting. Right, so if we run the game, the new instructions, I'm going to go with spark, and then they choose scissors, and I win. All right, so it's an extension of the game, and you should probably do like 3 more rounds of testing, but hopefully it's working fine. Now the second part is to document the class. So 5 points per method and 5 points per class. All right. So when I'm asking about documentation, I'm specifically referring to JavaDoc. All right. So JavaDoc, don't forget, it's /*, and it should precede whatever you're documenting. So if I'm documenting the class, it has to be preceding the class. If I'm documenting the constructor, it has to precede the constructor. If I'm documenting a method, it has to precede the method. Okay. Now for each JavaDoc, you need to provide a description, whatever description of the class. So just write something, meaningful, rock, paper, scissors, game, blah, blah, blah. All right, and add annotations if necessary. For the class, we looked at 2 annotations, author and version, okay? And for method, depending on whether there are parameters or return data types, you will need to add those annotations, okay? So let's take a look at the constructor and the game. Probably there's a typo here, but so the constructor does not return anything, and this particular constructor does not take any parameter, so we just write a description. There is nothing to annotate here, right? Same thing for the method print instruction. Okay. Now same thing for get user choice and for get user choice and get program choice. Notice that this method returns a value, right, which is of type string. So you have to say to describe what the value returned. All right, so it's the user choice, either rock, paper, scissors, Spock, or lizard. All right, so this is an annotation to describe what's the value returned by that method. Okay. So if there is a return data type, make sure to provide both description and to annotate the return at return user choices, whatever. Okay. Now same thing for get program choice. You need to say that this is the program picks one weapon randomly, and then you have to say that one of the weapons. I mean, in this particular case, and even the example, not really complicated methods to document. So the idea is just for you to show that you know how to write documentation. Okay, and those are all simple methods. Let's take a look at the time method, since this is a method that takes parameters, 2 parameters, and also returns a value, which is a Boolean. So for this particular method, you have to provide first a description. Okay. And second, you need to provide a documentation for each one of the parameters. Okay. So first, you have to use the annotation param, indicating parameter, and then the name of the parameter, which should match this, the parameter here, and then just write a description. The first choice, for instance. Same thing for the second one. Choice 2, the second choice. And finally, this is a method that returns a value, a Boolean value. Return true if choice. So there's just a description of what is returned if choice 1 dies with choice 2. Well, they are the same. Okay. So I'm going to be specific, asking you to document specific methods or constructor or a class. So when I'm asking you to document a method, make sure if the method is returning something to document the return value. If there are parameters, also to document the parameters. Okay, so I'm not going to do everything in here. I may also ask you to generate the HTML documentation. If I ask you to do so, there are two ways to do it. You can go back to the project here and go to Tools, Project Documentation, and this will force BlueGA to generate the documentation. Okay, and the documentation will be basically an in this doc folder, HTML files in this doc folder in your project. So this will be part of your submission once you submit your work. Okay, so if I ask you to generate documentation, don't forget to generate it. All right, so that's it. Once you're done, again, business as usual. Don't forget to rename, using your ID, and compress and submit. Okay. Please make sure you're submitting your work. Don't submit the initial file. Don't submit something else, because it happened before. And in this exam, there is no time to do a makeup, right? If you submit something by mistake, I'll be so sorry. Right? So make sure you submit your own work. Double check it. Make sure you download it. It's containing the code you submitted. All right. So the multiple choice questions, you will need to answer those on ELC. It will be a quiz. The questions will be on paper, but you will need to enter your answers on ELC. Okay, and the exam will be like the code workshops. You do it, you compress it, and you upload it to a Dropbox, and you submit both of them before exiting the exam. All right. All right, that's it. We'll see you tomorrow.